just can't imagine what was going on in the minds of the people inside that medical office. Sheldon Ingram, you've just been down to the situation where this may have begun. Tell us what you learned.
It's an apartment building on Wood Street, Scott, and the Woodview Apartments. And what I've spoken to several people there, people who live in this apartment building, as well as the building manager and some of the employees. And basically what we know at this point from these people is that this guy, Robert Taylor.
That's the first time that we've heard a name, actually.
Yeah, his name is Robert Taylor, and this was confirmed through the building manager of the Woodview Apartments. Basically what happened was he woke up angry this morning. Maintenance workers weren't working fast enough in repairing the door to his apartment.
How many units are in that facility?
I say roughly 12 to 16 units in this apartment building. From what I'm told, he was very upset at maintenance workers because they weren't repairing his door fast enough. Got into a verbal confrontation with the maintenance workers, called the rental office, was belligerent on the telephone with the building manager, and then when he hung up the telephone from the building manager, the next news that everyone heard was that the building was on fire.
Right.
Now, prior to that, I spoke to a maintenance worker, one of the maintenance workers that Taylor confronted. Basically what happened was that there were two more maintenance workers right in front of his apartment. He shot one in the neck and then set the apartment on fire. He also threatened a third maintenance worker, the one that I spoke with. After he shot this maintenance worker in the neck, that's when he fled the apartment building, made his way towards the McDonald's area, and then started to shoot.
Set the place on fire, leaving the wounded victim
exactly there. And right now, we don't know the condition of this maintenance worker. He was shot in the neck at point-blank range, which is what I was told by another maintenance worker.
Oh, man. So the situation, we now at least have a name that may possibly be involved with Robert Taylor.
Robert Taylor.
This young man, perhaps in his 20s?
Late 30s.
Late 30s.
He's late 30s. And I spoke with a couple of his neighboring tenants inside the apartment building. He was known as a disgruntled person.
Right.
Was very upset when kids were running through the hallways, visiting in the apartment building. Was not a very friendly person. Didn't say much to his neighbors at all. Very belligerent. Apparently, this is the second time he damaged his door. They were repairing his door that he damaged.
He may have damaged his own door.
He damaged his own door, and the building manager told me that he damaged this door prior to this incident.
Right.
So apparently he has some problems.
We do know that the brother and his sister are being brought to the scene to perhaps, once they establish contact, we don't believe that they've had actual contact with him yet, to try and maybe calm him down and relieve the situation. But what in the fire that was then set, if there were 10 or 12 other units, everybody else was okay in the facility?
Everyone was okay. Everyone was evacuated. I know for a fact that one of the neighbors on that floor in a neighboring apartment, there were two elderly women living in that apartment. They got out safely.
Right.
They heard the gunshots, saw smoke, and they evacuated.
And the maintenance worker that you talked to gave the account that he did go to the Burger King before he went to the McDonald's.
No, he didn't. They don't know the pattern.
Where he went
they just know the direction that he traveled, but they don't know the sequence of events.
And so the maintenance worker you saw actually saw him shoot this man in the neck?
No, the one I spoke with, was threatened by Taylor. He said he was threatened. He said Taylor threatened to kill him. He went 2 doors down to work on another door when the shot rang out.
Heard the shot, came back.
Heard the shot, came back, and a third maintenance guy told him what happened.
I see. I understand. One of the things that we've been waiting to hear as we've been having information from different police sources is any official kind of word to the public, and we've been standing by waiting for the Wilkinsburg police chief to deal with this, and because it was obviously their officers, the Wilkinsburg Fire Department, that went to the scene there on Wood Street to respond to the fire, and obviously the Wilkinsburg police officers were the first on the scene, both at the McDonald's and then as it moved on to the Penn West building. So we should in just a moment be able to establish contact there. Let me ask you a little bit more. I don't know if you were able, in talking to the residents there, you said they described him as an angry person, someone easily disgruntled. We do know from that after whatever happened at the McDonald's in the parking lot, that he went into a woman's home, perhaps between the McDonald's and the Penn West building, popped up in her living room with a gun in hand, but told her that he didn't intend to shoot her because she was black, that he only intended to harm white people.
There's a very distinct pattern to what's going on here, Scott. Inside the apartment building, he confronted two maintenance workers. One was black, one was white. He shot the white maintenance guy, left the black guy alone. When he went to McDonald's, I found this out. I went to McDonald's when I left the apartment building. When I went into McDonald's, a person who knows one of the shooting victims
Right.
was told by an eyewitness that he said, "Excuse me," to the black guy who was standing there and shot another white guy inside the McDonald's restaurant. So I don't know if he
Right.
was intentionally going after white people in this shooting
In his rage
spree,
at that
but
point.
there's a pattern that's been established, and that people are picking up on.
And again, it would seem, as I was remarking, we often have in these kind of situations eyewitness accounts that vary widely, but so far in the last 2 hours there seems to be a real unanimity about what people have heard and what they've seen, and there's not been a lot of disagreement. We do, Sheldon, just have some video that we want to go to now, and thank you for giving us this
Sure.
insight about the gunman, whose name we now may know to be Robert Taylor. This is tape of the people who were, perhaps the scene that we were most actively waiting for, the children coming out of the daycare center that operates in the Wilkins house. 50, 60 kids who may have been inside, and obviously just the heartbreaking scene of the little kids, some hands in the air. We do believe the children were taken to the Wimco Metals building on Penn Avenue to be evaluated. After the evacuation, parents reconnecting with them there. Our Paul Van Osdel is down now live where we are expecting to hear from the Wilkinsburg police chief. Let's talk to Paul. We have not talked to you yet in this process. I know you've been gathering a lot of information. What can you tell us?
Well, basically what we know right now is Police Chief Gerald Brewer of Wilkinsburg just held a news conference. He confirmed that there were 4 people shot, did not give any details as to the nature of the injuries, whether the condition of the victims, I should say. He also said the suspect did shoot at police officers from Wilkinsburg as he was trying to evade them, and the police were not hit, though. The police, there was no reports of any officers down or anything like that. And he did confirm that the children, many of the children at that daycare center, as we saw, had been evacuated, and that many of the other folks who were in the other buildings that were affected by this were also evacuated. It was a very brief, very terse news conference. There obviously there's a lot of unanswered questions right now, and the police chief did not answer questions. However, he did say there would be another briefing in about an hour in order to clear up some of these issues. And so all he was able to do was confirm that there were 4 people shot at this point.
Well, he is talking about 4, and we know that there are 5 people that have been taken to the hospitals. Could it be that one of those people may have been the maintenance worker that Sheldon was talking about in the original scene where this started on Wood Street?
Yeah, Scott, that's very possible, because he did confirm that everything did start at Wood Street at those apartments, and that it proceeded there to the Burger King and the McDonald's, and that's where, of course, the chase ensued. The officers gave chase to the suspect, but he did not confirm any more information about the name of the suspect or anything like that. So, as you say, we're still sort of in the dark as to what that 5th victim is all about.
And Paul, I may be able to flesh out some of this because we have just learned the Associated Press is reporting that one of these 5 shooting victims has died. We don't know if it is the person who was taken to Mercy or one of the 4 taken to Presby. But all had been listed in critical condition. Sheldon's account had been that a maintenance worker at the apartment on Wood Street was shot by this man, shot through the neck. We knew that a 65-year-old man had been in critical condition. Did the police chief address it all? And I'll ask this, and then we're going to have to go away to Nina Pineda. In fact, Paul, I'm going to go to Nina Pineda right now to get some of the latest information that she has. We'll come back to Paul in just a second. Nina, what are you learning there?
Scott, we're standing here with Lieutenant Steve Starsich with the Pittsburgh Police. He has been assigned to work the perimeter outside the command post area. Lieutenant, what can you tell us about the danger to the rest of the community as you try to seal off this area?
Okay, right now we're concerned with people coming to pick up their children from the child care center, and also anybody trying to check on people that they feel are working in this area. We ask right now that everybody stay away from this area until we secure it.
Lieutenant, I understand that the gunman still may be inside. We've been still asked to crouch down behind this vehicle, and it seems like some of the people have been cleared from the area. Is there still a danger? Do you still think the gunman is in the building?
Yes, the gunman is definitely in the building, and he's still armed, and that's why we want people to stay away from this area.
Have you been able to establish any contact with him? I know that they brought some of his relatives here. Are they speaking to him now?
I believe the police officers are speaking to him as we stand here.
We are hearing actually at the station, officer, we are on the perimeter, so they don't know with the command center that he may be in custody. Are you hearing that on your radio yet?
As far as I know, he's not in custody at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Steve Starsich giving us an update here from the perimeter. We'll throw it back to you, Scott.
And Nina, that could be a situation certainly in flux, and it was certainly our first report that there had been actually direct contact from the police with the gunman, a man that Sheldon Ingram is reporting his name from neighbors to be Robert Taylor, a man who lived in the Woodview apartments along
Scott,
Wood Street.
He's in they are saying that he is in custody right now.
He is now in custody. The gunman who has held Wilkinsburg in this situation, a terrifying situation now for 2.5 hours, you're saying is in custody. Have we seen him come out?
Scott, we are moving around right now because the lieutenant we were interviewing did get a radio call on his radio that this suspect was in custody, so the cameraman is trying to get a vantage point.
Okay.
We do see some SWAT team members running towards the building.
Okay, Nina, hold right there. I'm going to switch to Sean Yancey on the phone. We're also going to take the Sky 4 shot for perspective. And Sean, you've learned the details of the apprehension.
That's right. We were just talking to police right now. They tell us that the suspect is in custody. We're not sure if there was any resistance, but we know he is in custody. He is alive, unhurt from what we know so far from police. They're getting ready to bring him out of the southwest end of the Wilkins House to the Penn West building right now. That's all we have confirmed so far, Scott.
Do you know if it did help the bringing of the brother and sister to the scene? Did it seem that contact with relatives may have helped bring this to an end?
You know, Scott, from what I'm hearing, I'm not even sure if the brother and sister had even made contact with him. No, they are here. They are here, but I'm not even sure if they even made contact with him. So we're not exactly sure the details of how police were able to apprehend him, but we do know he is in custody.
You may not be able to help me here, but I'm looking at a Sky 4 shot that is looking down at the entrance where we've seen so many officers go in. And we do now see a man coming out, and it appears, let's go back to that Sky 4 shot, Brian, if we can.
That is probably
and they are
the
bringing a
exact
man
area.
in a white shirt, and they're just putting him now into a police vehicle, and he had his hands behind his back, so clearly this may be the suspect in this series of shootings that has sent 5 people to the hospital. The Associated Press reporting that 1 person is dead. But if there is any consolation that is going to be available at this moment to the people who live and work in that area, it is that the gunman, who may have had that single bullet left unused, is now in custody, and so there can be some relief, even as there is the process of dealing with the grief of what has gone on at the Penn West building. And I'm not sure, again, the question I was going to have for Sean before we lost her phone is if this is an entrance off of the Wilkins house or off of the Penn West medical facility. If you are just joining us, this has been an agonizing 2.5 hours for the folks along this stretch of Wilkinsburg along Penn Avenue. We've seen shootings and fire and hostages taken, and anguished parents waiting, ambulances racing from the scene, in just a terrifying situation that does now, here now, 2.5 hours after it began, seem to have resolved with the gunman in custody. Again, this is going to be a long process of sorting through exactly what went on. But let's go back to Jim Parsons, who has been stationed right across from the facility for now more than 2 hours. Jim.
Well, Scott, we just watched, as you did, we just watched the suspect come out of the building and be taken away by Pittsburgh police. We want to ask Lieutenant Starsich right here if he can just spare us a moment.
Where's it at? West Street, down 400 block of West Street.
Okay. Lieutenant, now that the situation's over, can you tell us what precipitated this gunman coming out here? What was all involved in that?
Again, I really can't tell you. I wasn't involved with the interior SWAT units, and you would have to talk to them a little bit later.
Okay, but we know that the gunman is in custody. Since he was being put into a police car or a police unit, not an ambulance, obviously, he was not injured?
I would assume that. Again, Wilkinsburg and the borough's Allegheny County Police would be handling this detail, so they could probably better answer your question.
Jim, we're watching the police car driving the suspect away. Can you ask the officer to confirm the identity, the identity that Sheldon Ingram gave us as Robert Taylor?
Can you confirm the identity as Robert Taylor of the individual? Is that what you heard as a description?
No, I heard a couple different names, so I'm not sure who it is.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe they have an information station set up on South Street.
Right, and we've been over there.
Able to give you that.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I have to say, though, Scott, that what was told to Sheldon, I also heard on the scene here as well, that the gentleman's name was Robert Taylor. He may have gone by the name of Dante.
Dante was the name that you had used earlier in this process. And I don't know if you heard Sheldon's full report of this man, if it is Robert Taylor, being angry, upset about maintenance work at his department and shooting one of the maintenance workers.
I'm seeing City Council President Bob O'Connor on the scene as well. Of course, this is in Wilkinsburg, not in the city of Pittsburgh, but O'Connor being council president and Pittsburgh police having such a presence here, O'Connor obviously saw fit to come on down.
Yeah, that police car has stopped jurisdiction clearly, and I don't know how that this will play out, but obviously Wilkinsburg police might take him into custody and to their facility.
It most definitely will be Wilkinsburg police. They're handling the investigation. I think Lieutenant Starsich from Pittsburgh police just made that very clear. It is Wilkinsburg police's case. They'll do the investigation. They will take him into custody. Of course, after they get done questioning this individual, he'll be in the custody of the
and perhaps a change of plans. The car containing the suspect just did a complete 180-degree turn and is now headed the other way. And so we're not sure exactly where they are going at this moment.
Not sure. Scott, we have City Council President Bob O'Connor who's heading our way if you'd care to hear from him.
Yeah, we would. Once you have Council President O'Connor with you.
Okay. Bob, good to see you. Yeah. Tell us why you're here and what you know about Pittsburgh police involvement in this and the end of the situation.
Well, we were called in. I neighbor this district. I'm the president of council. I was very concerned. I was in the command post with the officers to see the cooperation. What happened? Unfortunately, this gentleman, the actor, went in. The manager of McDonald's evidently was his landlord. He went in and was upset about something minor, which I understand. He went in, shot him, a couple people in McDonald's, and escaped into this hospital. Fortunately, they sealed the area off. They had him confined and then evacuated. There were 37 kids in an adjoining building, nursery school kids. They're all out safe. Officer Fisher from the city of Pittsburgh talked him into giving up. So he surrendered. We just put him in a police car. He's on his way to Wilkinsburg Police Station.
Officer Fisher is one of Pittsburgh Police Department's negotiators?
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, you mentioned that this is in your district. I believe we're in Wilkinsburg.
Borders. I border. Regent Square is right next to it.
So do you know whether or not Wilkinsburg police, from what we've been told by Pittsburgh police, Wilkinsburg police will handle it from here on?
Yes, they put him in a Wilkinsburg police car. Everybody was back up to support. You know, we had the 2 SWAT teams, the city, the county.
Bob, what precipitated, do you know, him surrendering here? I mean, you talk about Officer Fisher coming down and talking to him. Did he do that personally, through a window, by telephone? Did he involve the brother and sister of the gunman?
I believe they had him on the phone for about the last 20 minutes. That was a good sign.
Did the fact that his relatives were brought down here, did that assist in bringing him out?
I don't know. They just came down, but you know, it happened. It did happen very quickly, so that I think the officers, when you started positive speaking to them, I think they felt we had about an 80% chance then.
Tell us more about what you know about the manager at the McDonald's. What was the relationship between the gunman and him?
Again, it's secondhand knowledge, but
does it come from police, though?
Yeah, pretty good sources. I understand he owned the property where this person rented from him. He was disgruntled about something, and he came in, and that's what provoked it.
I see. So that would be the reason why he stopped at the McDonald's. Any idea why he stopped first at a Burger King?
Again, this is what I heard, and unfortunately, I'm hearing at least 3 possible dead.
Okay, Bob, are you talking to police officers who are telling you this information?
Yeah, actually, we're in the command post. You know, again, everybody's talking. You know, so nothing's in concrete yet. So I went on. It's all unofficial what I've been hearing.
Okay. City Council President Bob O'Connor, thanks for coming down.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, try and get dry.
All right.
So obviously, Scott, as you mentioned, the involvement of Pittsburgh police, the proximity to the city of Pittsburgh is the reason why O'Connor's here now.
And obviously that filled in a few things. If he is hearing from police sources that the manager of the McDonald's was the owner of the property where Robert Taylor, if we can believe that is his name, resided.
We're going to have to confirm that.
We don't know, but Council President Bob O'Connor saying that is what sources have been telling him. And it does mesh with the other accounts that we have of somebody being shot in the drive-through lane at the McDonald's, 2 people being shot inside the McDonald's, another in the parking lot. And then there's a report that the 5th victim may have been the 5th victim back by the Burger King, although we know that one of the maintenance workers was shot inside the building on Wood Street. So we do have some conflict in the AP reports with what we have heard from our reporters on the scene, and the only official confirmation right now, or at least the word from the Associated Press, is one person dead. The others we have been reporting in critical condition in this process.
And the other element to this story, Scott, which we have to report, is that we are hearing on the scene here, as Sheldon heard over on Wood Street, as Sean Yancey heard when she first arrived here, that there may have been racial undertones or overtones to this shooting, that once this gunman started going off, that he specifically targeted white targets, white victims, and actually told someone, I'm just shooting at white people today.
Jim, that is probably the most disconcerting part about this, and I will say we've gotten one piece of information just to make things officially here. Ronald Taylor is the name of the suspect, not Robert Taylor, as we reported earlier. Ronald Taylor, and again, and yes, that is exactly the situation, the scenario that witnesses have told us, both from Wood Street to the McDonald's to the home where he popped up in a living room onto the medical facility in the office there, that he was shooting at white people, that the two maintenance workers, one black, one white, he shot the white victim. Right. That even at the McDonald's, he asked one of a black person to step aside and then shot a white person. That he told the woman in her living room where he popped up that he was not going to hurt her because she was black, that he intended to hurt only white people, and that as he went to that medical facility and said that he had one bullet left and who would be the next victim, that he was not going to hurt the black woman that was there, even as he held a gun to the head of one of the nurses. Jim, we're going to get back to you as you're going to continue to talk to sources there, and again, we'll be trying to confirm what we heard there from Pittsburgh City Council President Bob O'Connor, who obviously doesn't have official jurisdiction over what happened in Wilkinsburg, although there were police officers, negotiators from the Pittsburgh Police Department on the scene there. But Bob O'Connor hearing from some of his sources that the manager of the McDonald's may have been the owner of the property where the gunman lived. Thank you, Jim, for standing by there. I believe that we have a tape of what we saw live on Sky 4 just a few minutes ago, right around 2 o'clock, as they brought the gunman out from this Penn West building right onto West Street, the man in the white shirt. A man that we believe to be Ronald Taylor in his late 30s, a resident of Wilkinsburg, a man who was frustrated, upset with maintenance workers, known to his neighbors. They describe him to us as someone angry, disgruntled, frequently, often, upset with children. A man who had damaged his door intentionally and damaged it again after it had been repaired, and was frustrated that maintenance workers were not getting to the job of repairing it. And that then, in his anger with them, that a gun may have been drawn and one of those maintenance workers shot. And then as the situation moved on to the fast food places, the Burger King and the McDonald's, and then even 3 shots fired outside of the Penn West building, but it would seem by that point all of those hit were at the prior locations. A terrifying situation then played out over the last 90 minutes. Scott Stiller is in Sky 4, and we've been watching tape, Scott, of those moments as they brought him out and into the police car. But you on Sky 4 then followed the police car as it made its way, and it seemed like they weren't certain what to do at one point because they actually made a full 180-degree turn.
That's right, Scott. They did a couple of U-E's. I was actually getting confused where they were going because it's tough looking out the side of the chopper and looking through the viewfinder of the lens to try and stay with those guys. But, yeah, they kind of took the long way around, that's for sure.
Where did they end up?
I believe they ended back up at the Wilkinsburg Municipal Building.
At the Wilkinsburg Municipal Building where the police headquarters is there. All right, thank you, Scott, for that, because it did seem to be a very serpentine path, and that may have been because of the roadways that were closed off or perhaps just an attempt to avoid certain particular intersections. But Sky 4 is certainly giving you the picture. And this obviously being the least serious part about what we have to talk about, Scott, but you have a good vantage point of that. For people who have been in this onslaught here for the last 2.5 hours, does it look now that the suspect is in custody that any of these roadways are being reopened to traffic?
Nothing's been reopened right now, Scott. As you can see down by the McDonald's,
still shut down.
Penn Avenue is still closed. West is still closed as well, so it looks like they're going to keep this place shut down for a little while. If it changes, we'll let you know.
And Scott, I'm going to ask you one thing that we weren't able to do earlier, but maybe you can look toward it now. We've not yet, I believe, been able to get aerial shots of the Woodview apartments on West Street. And I wish I could tell you which part of West Street it is on, but there may be even still fire units along Wood Street. And Wood Street would be on the eastern side of the railway overpass, a block away. So it would be not from the McDonald's, but coming kind of closer to the helicopter where it would be positioned now. So when we come back to you, I don't know if you'll be able to locate that, but that might help us to get some perspective, because I don't believe that we've had actual video of where this may began, the first shooting and the fire on Wood Street. Again, if you're just joining us, and it has been a tense 2 hours, 45 minutes now, and a terrible situation, at least resolved with the apprehension of the gunman here in the last 10 minutes or so, but a situation that began badly and got worse with at least 5 people shot, and we believe at least 1 person dead, and others in critical condition. Jim Parsons has been our man who has been across the scene, posted there, as many of our other reporters have circled the scene. Jim, what have you learned here in the last few minutes?
Last few minutes, Scott, Sean Yancey, our reporter, has been talking to parents who were just moments ago. We watched them reunited with their children from the daycare center. Remember those striking pictures from about a half an hour ago, maybe longer, of the children from the daycare center coming out of the building and being taken over to a convenience store? Well, just moments ago, they were reunited with their parents. We hope to get you that tape here in just a few minutes. Sean is still talking with some of those parents at the moment. We talked just a moment ago with City Council President Bob O'Connor, who told us that it was the City of Pittsburgh police officer, Officer Fisher. We'd not been able to talk to him, but that he had direct one-on-one negotiations with the gunman and convinced him that the best course of action at this point, after all of this tragedy, the loss of life, that the 1 person we know about and the others who were injured, was to just give up. And that's what he did. We know that he had Officer Fisher had...
he's a professional negotiator, trained as a negotiator.
He is a professional negotiator. And that he had Ronald Taylor's brother and sister on the scene. Obviously, this was a person who who obviously was having a very bad day today, and obviously, just snapped and started shooting people.
And has made it a nightmare for scores and scores of others. We do have some of that tape that you talked about, and they were just heartbreaking images of the kids as they've been brought out. We saw some of it live on Sky 4, some of it on tape as they were brought out, and from the daycare center, which is in Wilkins House, the building that is a part of the complex that includes Penn West. 50, 60 kids were told at some points, and it just tears your heart to the point you can hardly speak at times to see the little kids. And at the point when they came out live and the little girls had their hands in the air, it just made you understand the anguish that the parents were in. They took the kids over to the Wimco Metals building, which is right along there in Penn Avenue, and they checked them out. The doctors were there to make sure, and the medics were there to kind of make sure that they were all okay, dealing with the anxiety and the anguish, and certainly as the parents rushed to the scene, that they were able to have their fears put to rest. Some of the kids as little as 6 weeks, some up to 6 years old.
And Scott, we have Sean Yancey here. She's just hustling back from having spoken. Gary, okay, she just come back from talking with some of those parents who have just been reunited with their children. Tell us what you saw, Sean.
Oh, Jim, a lot of happy faces, a lot of tears. Many of these parents, when they first heard about this, being a parent, I can understand they were afraid because they didn't know what was going to happen to their children. When they got the word that the suspect had been apprehended and their kids were okay, they were crying. There were tears of joy. I just watched a mom just minutes ago hugging her daughter. She said, she just wanted to get her arms around her baby and let her baby know her baby was okay. All the kids are okay, and parents are now taking their kids and going back home.
You have some videotape that we're going to be able to see here in a couple of minutes. What's that videotape going to show us?
It's just the parents. They were actually, police try to keep all the parents for the kids in the daycare center together. They were down at the Life Care Hospital, and when they got the word that the suspect had been apprehended, they walked the parents down here to the Metals building. Many of the kids were taken here to the Metals building to be evaluated after they had been evacuated from the building to make sure that they were okay. They brought many of these parents down here, about 20 or so parents down to pick up their kids.
We're told that the videotape, we're not going to be able to roll that at the moment, but you'll have plenty of videotape for us at 5 o'clock of those happy reunions. These parents had to be hoping for the best, but the worst had to be creeping into their thoughts as well.
Well, you're a parent. I mean, you can imagine what it would feel like if you got the word that your child was inside of a building and there was a gunman and the situation was just tense. So many of them didn't know what to expect. Fearful, but tonight grateful that their children are okay.
All right, we'll hear your full report tonight at 5 o'clock, Sean Yancey. Penn Hills police were just sitting on the scene. Just about every police department, well, there's 130 police departments in Allegheny County. They weren't all here, but trust me, there were at least a dozen police departments here, and a lot of great work we saw by police officers in a very tense situation. Crises bring out the best in a lot of folks, and we saw that in police officers here today.
And certainly, Jim, this was a law enforcement cooperation, really working at its best. We thank you for your coverage of the scene, and for our other reporters, Nina and Sean and Tonya and Bob and Ted, and certainly some of you in harm's way at different points, or at least very near to it. We appreciate that. The situation, as you've been watching, some of you may be just joining us here at the end, has not been a good one. Those parents that Sean talked about do indeed have relief tonight as they have their little ones, but for others this is going to be a night of sorrow. This is going to be a night of anguish, because there are 5 people that were shot at least. One we believe to be dead, others in critical condition at the hospitals, and perhaps people who were in the most disconcerting part of this, as we've said, may have been shot by an angry man with a gun, perhaps for no other reason than the color of their skin. And as we've watched the situation develop, we're going to try in the hours between now and our broadcast at 5 to sort out what did happen at the apartment on Wood Street, and what happened to the maintenance worker shot through the neck there. We'll try to find out what happened at the Burger King, what happened inside the McDonald's, and to the people that were shot there. Shot as the gunman asked a black person to step aside so he could shoot a white person. And to talk to the people who were inside the Penn West building when he came in and took hostages and pressed that gun to the head of one of the nurses, and the fear that was in their minds as he went into the back room with the doctor and the office manager. And obviously the concern for the people, not only the children in the daycare center, but those in the adult daycare center, those who needed care, those who needed the kind of consistency and tender compassion, and were instead thrown into a nightmare here this afternoon. But thankfully, despite the losses and the grief, an episode that has come to an end with the arrest of a suspect, a man we believed is Ronald Taylor, and we will of course be learning a lot more about him in the hours and days to come. We do appreciate your staying with us through a kind of a turbulent 2 hours of coverage here. Live coverage is again something that is not always easy to piece together, but hopefully we have been able to provide a good picture of what has gone on there, and our Action News teams will continue to do that this afternoon. We invite you to join us back here at 5 o'clock for our regular broadcast. We'll go back now to our regular programming. The conference we expected at this minute is not going to happen for perhaps another 10 minutes. So we're going to go back to regular programming, and we'll come back to that news conference as it gets underway.
No one knows yet just how many bullets were fired, one after another, victim after victim.
If you didn't see it live, a tense 2.5 hours, well, tonight's broadcast will cover a stunning series of events in our community with terrible consequences and talk of a chilling motive. At this hour, at least 2 are dead, and we know of several others in critical condition. This is the suspect, Ronald Taylor. His arrest came after a huge manhunt that brought scores of police and SWAT members into a large section of Penn Avenue for much of the day. And during the hostage and standoff phase, most fear centered on the children. Relief came late as police safely evacuated the 3rd floor daycare center from the Wilkins house. The little ones came out in a careful rush. Frantic parents had waited nearby for reunion. All of this started around 11:30 this morning. Let's begin our extensive team coverage with Jim Parsons, who stood and watched a great deal of it. Jim.
Scott, as you know, so many elements to this story today. A senseless series of shootings, apparently some kind of a racial motive. We had children involved in this. We had police officers ready to fire their weapons at a moment's notice, and yet, as we know, as much of a tragedy as this was, it could have been a whole lot worse, as we just saw those pictures of those children being safely brought out of the building. We're standing here at the McDonald's on Penn Avenue in Wilkinsburg. This was the scene where 3 people, according to Wilkinsburg police, were shot. The 3 of the 5 who were shot today. The situation started before the lunch hour, so let's take you back to where it all began. The shooting spree through Wilkinsburg started just after 11 a.m. Dozens of people found themselves caught in the line of fire.
Right now, they just told us to get out of the building. But we heard that somebody's been shot, that there's hostages. We don't know.
Some were forced to duck behind cars in this parking lot at the intersection of West and Penn. One witness came face to face with the alleged gunman.
And he says, well, I'm not going to hurt any black people. I'm just out to kill all white people. That's exactly what he said.
Police say Ronald Taylor began his rampage at the Woodview Apartments at 1208 Wood Street after a disagreement with maintenance men. He allegedly shot one of those men. Then he moved on to Burger King, where he allegedly shot one person inside. His next stop, according to police, this McDonald's.
He shot one person that was in the drive-thru in a van that was sitting there, and then he shoots the manager who was inside.
Police say Taylor also shot a third person at McDonald's. Fleeing there, Taylor holed up in the Penn West office building. Just above him, children from a daycare center trapped inside. Police eventually got the kids out. Terrified parents could do nothing but wait.
They came with their guns drawn, and they said, get out the building, and we ran out the building. I called the daycare to make sure my baby, they wouldn't let me go up and get my baby. That's what I was worried about. You know, the police wouldn't let us go in the building. My baby was in there for 2 hours almost.
Again, 2 people have been confirmed dead in this shooting rampage. 3 others listed in critical condition at UPMC. And Scott, I understand we have more team coverage on this event now with more about the suspect, Ronald Taylor.
That's right, Jim. We do indeed, and we'll get back to you a little bit later in this hour, so thank you for that. And we are going to have a lot more about the victims of these shootings, but we want to focus more intently right now on the suspect, Ronald Taylor.
Ronald Taylor, who is he? What do we know about him, and where is he now? Paul Van Osdol is at police headquarters in Wilkinsburg, where several news conferences have been held this afternoon. Paul.
Well, what we know about Ronald Taylor right now, at least from police here, is not very much, although he is being held at the Allegheny County Jail. What we did hear just moments ago from Police Chief Gerald Brewer here in Wilkinsburg is just the trauma and the turmoil that police went through as they came upon this scene. Chief Brewer himself walking into the McDonald's where there were 3 victims down, at least several of whom had been shot in the head, one behind the counter, one in a car out front, one in the drive-through lane there at the McDonald's. That was after, of course, one individual had been shot at the Burger King and another individual had been shot over on Wood Street at his apartment. Now, police say a total of 125 people were evacuated from that Penn West office building, including 37 children. And it was a massive effort by police from many different agencies, of course led by the Wilkinsburg police here, but many other police were involved in coordinating this, and there was a hostage negotiator from the Pittsburgh police who was very instrumental in getting the suspect to surrender about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Now, as I said, we just moments ago heard from Police Chief Gerald Brewer about this whole incident. This is what he had to say.
It's very chaotic when you have that many agencies at a scene like that, when you have an individual that has hostages in the building and there's a viable threat. But everybody worked very well, and it was major teamwork by everybody concerned that kept this incident from getting any worse.
And one thing that Chief Brewer did emphasize was police used restraint in dealing with the suspect. They were shot at, several shots were fired at police officers as the suspect was going over to the Penn West office building from the McDonald's, and police elected not to shoot at him at that time, and Chief Brewer credited his officers with using restraint in trying to pursue the suspect. And really, he was not saying very much about what they know about the suspect, but we certainly will be learning more, I'm certain, in the next few hours. Live at the Wilkinsburg Borough Building, I'm Paul Van Osdol.
All right, Paul, thank you. Meanwhile, more tense moments for kids and teachers inside of a daycare center in the Penn West building that is right next door to all the action. Sean Yancey talked to parents. Sean.
Michelle, we're both parents with young children, so you can imagine what these parents were going through as they had to watch and wait and watch all this unfold. There were between 50 and 30 kids inside and their teachers stranded inside this building. It was the last thing these parents expected when they dropped off their kids this morning at the Learning Tree School. Several hours into the standoff, police went in and were finally able to get their kids out. Rose Luster couldn't get to her 2 grandbabies fast enough.
Where are they? Where are they?
She left work as soon as she heard there had been a shooting.
I just want to see them, and I just want to hold them and tell them I love them. And then we're going home.
Linnell Brown was right next door in the Wilkins house. She was evacuated, but her 3-month-old baby was stuck inside the daycare.
I was just so worried. I thought my baby was going to die. I didn't know what was going on.
Carla heard the news on the radio. 2 of her children were inside the daycare center.
I heard students being hostage in a building, and that made me come down here as soon as possible.
What went through your mind?
Terror, anger, Aggravation.
The good news, the children were apparently oblivious to the danger around them.
We were all in one room and everybody was lying down on the floor.
Daycare supervisor Barbara Williams said they were in constant contact with police.
It was kind of scary. Well, not very scary, but kind of. What were the children were very good, though.
All the kids were taken to a building across the street and checked to make sure they were okay. Relieved parents rushed in to see for themselves. A thumbs up from one parent, kisses from another, and all smiles from everyone else.
Yes, everybody's fine. Thank God.
Now, we were told there were kids from 6 weeks to 6 years old inside that daycare. Some parents told me they may just keep their kids home tomorrow and hold on to them and hug them. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Sean Yancey. Michelle, back to you.
Nice to see those smiles at the end, Sean. Thanks. Well, as you can imagine, neighbors couldn't get home. Patrons couldn't get away fast enough.
A mix of fear and frustration all day. Nina Pineda is going to continue our team coverage now with more of the startling stories of those who came face to face with this man. Nina.
Scott, as we all have seen, several people had to be evacuated, several dozens of people caught in the line of fire. For some people, they were face to face with the gunman as he went into their office looking for a place to hide. After spending a few terrifying moments crouching under police cover, people who escaped the doctor's office had an even scarier story to tell. The gunman, moments earlier, had threatened their lives.
Took the three of us in the back, and he said he had one bullet left, and which one of you three should I use it on?
He walked us back here, and he showed us that he had a gun, and he said, do you know how many people I just killed?
He made the receptionist walk in front of him, grabbing up others on the way.
This guy's going, come on, get going, let's go, back here.
He then held the gun to one woman's head.
Didn't hit her head, didn't touch it, but sort of towards her head. Then he said, no, let me terrorize you for a while, let me take you. And I think he grabbed her hand, and he pulled her. And then she said, no, please. And he dropped her hand, and he ran into this examining room 1.
He walked that way first, and then he walked to that door, stood there for a minute. That's when I looked around this corner. And then he went out there and shut the door, and that's when I knew we were clear enough to get out.
They got out fast, but had no idea who was left behind.
I know one is hiding in a bathroom now, one of our co-workers, but he had let her go. He told her, not you, sister, and Barb is black, and then he let her go, and she went in one of the bathrooms to hide.
At this point, residents on the street are watching police as they move through their parking lot with their guns drawn. It turns out the suspect never made it past the hallway behind the doctor's office. The elevators were shut off, and police had sealed off all the exits.
If we would have known what he had already done, it would have been a lot worse.
There you can see some of the drama as it unfolded during the day. Those people were outside, had just been escorted out, and then took us back in to recreate the scene. They are all okay. We just came from that doctor's office. They were calling for crisis counselors, especially for the one woman who had the gun held to her head. Back to you.
You can imagine the terror of those moments. Thank you, Nina. We do want to update the conditions of the surviving victims. Again, 2 people dead, 3 people wounded in this, critical injuries. Ted Coppy is live at Montefiore Hospital in Oakland. And Ted, you heard from doctors just a little while ago. What are they saying now?
That's right, Scott. But within the last hour, doctors have wrapped up a news conference here. They say the first victim to arrive around 11:45 was the one that died here at UPMC. Another victim died at Mercy Hospital just across town. Now, the victim that came here, the first one, he was shot apparently in the lower throat, just above the clavicle. The bullet went into his chest, and that unfortunately killed him. He arrived with no vital signs, and they were unable to revive him. Shortly after that, 3 more victims did arrive, as you mentioned. They are all in critical condition. One underwent surgery. I'm told he came in. He's unconscious, comatose, as a matter of fact. A bullet went into his head, through his brain. Each of these people suffered 1 gunshot injury, either to the head or to the face. The other 2 really waiting to see right now that second victim who underwent surgery with the bullet in his brain. The doctors say his prognosis is not good right now. The other 2, they're simply waiting to see. Just like us, when this whole thing broke earlier today, doctors heard many rumors, weren't exactly sure what they were dealing with, so they went ahead and prepared for the worst.
As you may recall, when this incident was at its height, there were a lot of unknowns. We had no idea how many victims we were actually going to be required to take care of.
And doctors say getting 4 gunshot victims virtually at the same time is difficult, although this trauma unit obviously was prepared for much more. In fact, they were preparing at one time for 10 to 15 victims. Luckily, not that many. 50 people in all in the ER combined to help try to save all these victims. That's the very latest from UPMC. Reporting live in Oakland, Ted Kopp, Channel 4 Action News.
All right, Ted, thank you. We'll get back to Ted as well for an update on that. Now, we know then how this situation has ended, about the deaths, about the arrest. But how did it begin?
Let's turn our attention now to motive in this shooting spree. Sheldon Ingram has been checking on that. Sheldon, what do you know?
Well, Michelle, witnesses tell me that Ronald Taylor started his day with a bad disposition. He reportedly took out his frustration on maintenance workers inside the Woodside Garden Apartments where he lived. Now, one of the maintenance workers told me that Taylor became angry because they were not working fast enough while making repairs.
And then he looked at me and he says, "You're going to be dead."
John DeWitt is one of the 3 maintenance men Ronald Taylor allegedly threatened. Their crime? Taking too long to fix a broken door in his apartment.
Yeah, I see the shot. He was looking for me.
But he was actually looking for you?
Yeah.
To kill you?
Yeah.
And he actually told you he would kill you?
He told me I'd be dead.
And I told him it takes 1 to 2 hours to do this work. And he started cussing out the maintenance men. Then he called me and left a few choice words on my voicemail.
Within minutes of that phone call, the building manager heard that the apartment building was on fire. Witnesses say Taylor shot one maintenance worker before he torched his own apartment.
He looked at Andy. Andy said, "Don't do anything. Don't do this. Don't cause a problem." And then he turned and shot Johnny in the neck.
He got mad at the guy, evidently, and shot him point-blank range in the neck on the roof. The same guy set the apartment on fire, apartment 503.
I found out then the contractors was shot, and the gentleman was on his way to McDonald's running, shooting people.
Taylor isn't known to be friendly by tenants familiar with him. Some say he has a reputation for complaining. You didn't come across as a friendly guy at all?
No. I've seen him on the elevator. I was just on the elevator with him the day before yesterday, or yesterday. And he didn't say anything to me, and I didn't say anything to him.
Now, the maintenance worker allegedly shot by Taylor is Johnny Kroll. Taylor lived on the 5th floor where the fire started, and all of the tenants evacuated from the building safely.
And Sheldon, what you heard fits with what we heard from the woman who found him in her living room, fits with what we heard from the people in the medical office, that he was expressing racial outrage as he picked his victims.
Witnesses tell me 2 significant things. Inside the apartment building, he confronted 2 maintenance workers. One was black, one was white. The black maintenance worker tried to talk him out of shooting anyone. He shot the white maintenance worker. When he went inside of McDonald's, another witness told me there was a white employee and a black employee. He said, "Excuse me," to the black employee, and then shot the white employee. Then he went around to the drive-through window and shot another person.
All right. Sheldon, thank you. We'll learn more about this. In all, we do have 8 reporters working on this story today. There is some other news of the day, so we will continue our coverage live from the studio and the shooting scene as the broadcast continues tonight. Jim Parsons will be back. Tonya Caruso will join us. More from the witnesses. That is coming up as we head toward 5:30. But we do want to look to some of the other things that we're covering today, including some of the meteorological conditions. A dreary day, really kind of mirroring today's events.
And Joe DiNardo is here now with more for us. Joe?
Well, we did have some of the activity around the area. Started out very nice. Early this morning, we had some cloud cover. That moved on through with a few showers. Then back to the cloud cover, and it's going to be with us for a while. Here's the latest satellite loop. You can see this activity moving from the northwest to the east-southeast. Take a look at the latest on live pinpoint Doppler radar. And there we have some activity now coming up on Swickley at the airport, also in through Beaver, Monaca, right in through the Aliquippa area and Ambridge area, and then northwestern sections of Washington County, all moving east. That activity that you see right now is light rain showers that'll be gradually moving on through. The surface map that's causing this activity, frontal system moved through just about 2 hours ago, continues to move east. That high-pressure center is going to dominate our weather pattern tonight and tomorrow with northwesterly flow, although you will notice a considerable drop in the temperatures over the next 24 hours. Right now we're 54. Our high today was 58. You can see the 40s and shortly the 30s out to the west. So the forecast for this evening, still a few showers, 49 degrees during the evening hours. Overnight breezy with a sprinkle or flurry, and the overnight low 35 degrees. I'll be back later with a complete forecast. Here's Scott and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Joe. We are going to take a break here. Coming up, some of the other news of the day,
including the new highway link between Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Also, a grisly discovery in Penn Hills. A body is found at a fire scene. We've got more on that next.
Channel 4 Action News at 5 is everywhere. Live with Michelle Wright, Scott Baker, Consumer Watch with Wendy Bell, Chief Meteorologist Joe DiNardo, and Meteorologist Stephen Crawford. Right now, Action News at 5 continues.
Right now, some of the other news of the day. The call to 911 reported a trash fire.
But when Penn Hills firefighters put out the fire, they found the body of a woman, a stabbing victim, in the debris. This happened near Beechford Road and Blackador Avenue early this morning. A body set on fire in a pile of debris on a dirt road leading up to the East End Auto Wreckers. Penn Hills police and Allegheny County homicide detectives searched the scene for hours gathering evidence, but the identity of the victim is still unknown.
The victim was a young female, approximately 5'2" to 5'4", and very thin build. We're investigating all missing persons reports from the past several days. Right now we have detectives en route to some local police departments to see if they have anyone missing.
Police are asking anybody with any information on this case to call homicide detectives.
A 6-year-old girl is home tonight recovering from a vicious attack by a pit bull in Charleroi. Shiara Moreshi of Bell Vernon was playing in the municipal park along the Monongahela River Saturday when the 8-month-old female dog attacked. The girl was bitten several times and knocked to the ground. The dog was later put to sleep and tested negative for rabies. The dog's owner, Stephen Chestnut, was charged with reckless endangerment.
Mr. Chestnut had been cited approximately a week to 10 days ago for having this dog in the downtown area when he was told not to.
Chiara suffered several puncture wounds and required stitches on her ear.
Fayette County is hoping that a 6-mile stretch of road will drive home dollars to the area. A portion of the Mont-Fayette Expressway that will eventually link Pittsburgh and Morgantown opened today. Our bureau chief, Christine Sorensen, joins us live with more. Christine.
Scott, this 6-mile stretch just north of the West Virginia border cost $140 million to build. You know, it just opened to the public 2 hours ago. We got an early drive-through this morning. These vehicles paved the way on this new section of the Mont-Fayette Expressway.
Oh, it's beautiful. It'd be nice to have it open.
And they paved the way for new development around the road.
It's the best thing happened to this corner of the state for the last 100 years.
The Fayette Industrial Park is already up and running. Area leaders hope it's only the beginning of people and businesses moving here with a quicker drive to Pittsburgh and Morgantown.
What we're looking for is people being able to move from Pittsburgh into this area and choosing this as a community to live because of cheaper taxes.
Both governors say it will help business in each state.
Certainly it gives this Pennsylvania location becomes a lot more attractive because it's accessible from the south by an interstate.
Cars pay 75 cents to drive on the 6-mile stretch. Special weight sensors and dual drop machines make the tolls faster and easier. 12 miles of the Mont-Fayette Expressway are now open for driving, all of them in Pennsylvania. West Virginia is just beginning construction today on its link to Morgantown, a 5-mile stretch that's expected to cost $100 million. Drivers say it will also be a lot safer than these 2-lane highways.
You could go there right now and the guardrails are tore down where the tractor and trailers, if they meet a car, they crowd the guardrails and it's so tight that they tear them down. So it's bad.
Now, it's going to take several years to build that West Virginia side with 2 bridges and an interchange with I-68. Pennsylvania still has more than 50 miles to build, so it is going to be some time before the entire thing is connected. Reporting live, I'm Christine Sorensen. Back to you, Scott.
Step by step. Thank you, Christine. Flood victims can get low-interest loans from the federal government, but many of them say what they really need is grants. The Small Business Administration surveyed the flooded areas in Allegheny, Fayette, Greene, Washington, and Westmoreland counties. Officials estimate about 500 homes damaged, 2 mobile homes destroyed. Governor Ridge says more help may be needed.
Anytime Mother Nature deals us a tough hand, and again in 4 or 5 counties we got struck again, that's always an ongoing assessment. There are some programs out there that might be adequate enough. We may have to backfill it down the road, and I think it's a little bit too early to tell right now.
The Small Business Administration is offering loans for uninsured losses at interest rates from 4 to 8%.
Last night's commute home wasn't really too bad for South Hills residents, but today's morning commute, a nightmare. Just take a look at the view from Sky 4. With Glenwood Bridge closed for 7 months of renovations, commuters are forced to use 2 recommended detours, and both Carson Street and the high-level bridge were just jammed this morning. Miles of cars at a standstill, and hundreds of people are telling detour horror stories. Many are now looking for alternatives to the posted detours, and all we can say really is good luck. Right now, let's recap our big story. The Wilkinsburg gunman is in custody.
Our coverage continues on Action News. Right now, we'll take a break.
Women of all ages have special health care needs. Pregnancy and the birth of a baby are an exciting time. For 3 weeks, beginning March 4th, WTAE-TV will present a Woman Care series, offering information on how to make this process rewarding and successful. We'll discuss topics like selecting a birthing site, comfort measures used during labor, and postpartum services. Woman Care, making our community healthier, one woman, one baby at a time.
Woman Care is brought to you by McGee Women's Hospital of UPMC Health System.
And right now we are continuing our team coverage of the Wilkinsburg shooting spree.
Our news crews are learning more about the suspect, about the victims, about the circumstances. If you are just joining us, 2 are known dead, the other victims critical. And 2.5 hours after it began, police finally took the suspect into custody. He is Ronald Taylor, a Wilkinsburg resident. The shooting spree going from location to location along Penn Avenue. Our coverage will continue live in just a few moments.
And we wanted to pass this along, too. If you witnessed today's events and feel that you need someone to talk to, therapists from the Allegheny Mental Health Associates are in our studios right now to take your call. The number is area code 412-243-6000. Again, 243-6000. These are professionals who may be able to help you deal with the grief and the shock of what's been a very terrifying day in our community.
And maybe even for kids who just saw it live on television. We do at this point want to bring the late word on Monday's school shooting in Michigan. A man believed to be an uncle of the 6-year-old suspect has turned himself in. Liz Cho has the latest from Flint.
In an emergency child custody hearing this afternoon, a judge ruled the boy's parents were guilty of child neglect and removed the first grader and his 2 siblings from the home, giving temporary custody to the boy's aunt.
I feel bad about what is happening. I'm very sorry for what had happened to the other child and her family. I'm not a bad father.
Investigators are vowing not to hold the 6-year-old boy responsible for Tuesday's shooting. However, they are questioning a man in connection with the gun used to kill the boy's first-grade classmate. Investigators have not yet identified the man, but he is believed to be a 19-year-old friend of the boy's uncle, Sir Marcus Winfrey. The boy lived with Winfrey in this rundown home, which police searched Tuesday night.
Well, this young boy appears not to have many advantages in life. He appears to be raised in a house with stolen weapons and guns. We have learned that the mother was just recently evicted from her home.
Police say the boy walked into Buell Elementary School with a .32 caliber handgun and allegedly shot and killed 6-year-old Kayla Rolland in front of 5 other classmates and their teacher.
The kid, when she turned around, he said, "I don't like you," and he shot her in the neck.
When I was doing my work, I heard something go bang, and I just started crying because I knew it was a gun.
The flag outside a school is flying at half-staff, while parents and children try to cope with their anger and grief.
It could have been anybody. What if there'd been more bullets? What if the boy didn't like the rest of the kids in the class?
People have been coming here to the school throughout the day to leave flowers in memory of 6-year-old Kayla Rolland. A memorial service is also planned for her tomorrow night. Liz Cho, ABC News, Mount Morris Township, Michigan.
A day of difficult news and a lot more news to cover yet.
Right now we're going to take a break. And when we come back, more on the Wilkinsburg shooting, the latest from the scene. Tonya Caruso talks with people trapped outside of their homes.
And we are going to check that DiNardo forecast, too. A miserable day on the Weather Watch. It's been a busy day for Sky 4. Joe's up next with a complete forecast in 2 minutes.
Introducing a new website that puts your entire community in the palm of your hand. ThePittsburghChannel.com, your home for everything local.
Time to check in now with our chief meteorologist, Joe DiNardo. What a dreary day, both in the news and in the weather.
Oh, boy, news for sure. Weather also. Ceiling started to drop a bit this afternoon around 2, 3 o'clock as we were coming back. And as we look now at Sky 4 overlooking the city, our temperatures, despite the dreary day and the rain, was still well above the normal. We started it all off this morning with a low of 41 degrees. Now, this afternoon before the front, It reached 58 degrees. Normals are 42 and 25, so that put Pittsburgh 16 degrees above those normals. Currently, International Airport, sky condition is cloudy. The ceiling is based at 3,900 feet. Visibility 10 miles in light rain. Our current temperature down to 54 degrees. Humidity 71%. A west wind 18, gusting to 24 miles per hour. Barometric pressure 29.78 inches of mercury on the rise. Satellite loop, here's that one bank of clouds moving through our area now. Here's the next storm center developing in through Colorado. This one looks like it's going to stay south of Pittsburgh. As we take a look at the composite radar summary, activity through the Four Corners and southern Rockies, down through Texas a little bit. But you'll see most of this activity has now passed to our east. But there's still a disturbance aloft that's moving through, and that's providing some shower activity in the area right now. You can see that major bank of cloud cover moving eastward, but even with these clouds, there are radar echoes. We'll take a look at the latest on pinpoint Doppler radar live. You can see the activity in western sections of Allegheny County, through Moon, on in through Swickley, Bellevue, Evanworth, and up north in through the North Hills. North A School District as well, and North Hills. That's all moving towards the east, then a break, more coming up on Beaver Falls, and a little bit around Washington, Pennsylvania. So there'll be some sprinkles and light showers go through here over the next 3 to 4 hour period, and then by morning that could become mixed with a few flurries. Temperatures, 54 International, 60 down at Fairmont, West Virginia, Oakland, Garrett County, Maryland, 50, and 48 up through Meadville, Youngsville, as the front continues to sweep to the south and to the east. Colder air moving in through Ohio. Temperatures, Chicago's down to 47, Madison, Wisconsin, 35, and International Falls now down to 28 degrees. This looks a little more like winter, at least late winter. Even Moosonee, James Bay, 32. That's kind of chilly, but normally they should be running about 12 to 14 above zero. Very warm to the south, the flow pattern aloft out of the northwest, and that'll turn us colder overnight and for the better part of tomorrow. Forecast for tonight, few sprinkles. It'll be breezy and colder, and even a flurry by morning. The low 35 degrees. Now, the next 24 hours, the front that's going through us now will continue to move eastward. High pressure will be moving down from the northwestern lakes, and with northwesterly flow, we're going to have cloud cover in here tomorrow. We'll call it mostly cloudy. Also, with northwesterly flow, there's a distinct possibility of a few flurries around. So tomorrow, unlike today, much chillier. Forecast for Thursday, mostly cloudy, it'll be breezy, even a snow flurry possible. Tomorrow's high near 40 degrees. On Thursday night, now we get back to where we should be. Clearing and cold. The overnight low by Friday morning, 24 degrees. And on Friday, start out with plenty of sunshine in the morning. Some increasing cloudiness late day. The high on Friday, 45 degrees. Take a look at the extended for the weekend. Weekend's looking pretty good on Saturday. Even though that storm center will move south, look for intervals of clouds and some sunshine Saturday, 47. A little more sunshine, that could be close to 50. On Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer, up to 55 degrees. And on Monday, look at that. Partly sunny, warmer, 63 degrees. Where has winter gone?
Who cares?
I care.
That's what I think.
I need more snow for the winter forecast, but as you can see, it's going to be above normal.
I'll stick with her editorial.
There you go.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, back to the major story we're following this evening, continuing coverage of the shooting rampage in Wilkinsburg. And to mark it out, we had one shot at the suspect's home, one at the Burger King, 3 at the McDonald's, and we understand that 2 of those are dead. All of this began in the 11 o'clock hour.
That's right. At least a half a dozen separate police departments arrived on the scene, as well as federal agents from the FBI. Joining them, dozens of EMS crews. You can just see the ambulances here on Penn Avenue. The entire street, really a sea of lights for most of the afternoon. Jim Parsons joins us now with more for us. Jim?
You know, it's so difficult in a situation like this, Michelle, to make any sense of something like this. So at this point, I don't think we can. I think all we can do is try and tell folks what happened here. And what happened here was quite simply a rampage by a man who just kept firing at people. You mentioned earlier that it started at his home. It was in an apartment building on Wood Street where he apparently had an argument with some maintenance men and just opened fire, shooting one there. And then the situation proceeded down Penn Avenue. And it started in the Woodview apartments on Wood Street and then proceeded to several fast food restaurants, if we can go to some videotape now, down Penn Avenue, first at the Burger King, then it went to McDonald's. 1 person shot at the Burger King, 3 shot at the McDonald's. Police, and then the gunman ended up inside of an office building. Police SWAT crews from both the county and the city were on the scene all day. And inside that office building where he was holed up was, and as you see that you're seeing the suspect right there, inside the office building where he was holed up was a daycare center and also some senior citizen centers. Police continue to explore just what Ronald Taylor's motives might have been. There is a question of where also he got his weapon. City Council President Bob O'Connor arrived on the scene just before Ronald Taylor surrendered to Pittsburgh police and Wilkinsburg police. And O'Connor was there, he said, when ATF agents, federal agents, got a very important phone call. Tell us what you heard.
Actually, I was right at the building when they were escorting the character, the actor, into the car. And a ATF agent came right over and just got a call from the White House. Wanted to know where this gun came from. They gave them their card and phone. They wanted to go to the Wilkinsburg police to make sure they didn't lose the facts. Again, I think it's a major issue where these people are getting the guns, whether they're stealing them, buying them illegally. So it's very important to all of us to get the guns out of the wrong hands.
So you can see this investigation extends far beyond the Wilkinsburg and Pittsburgh police departments and Allegheny County Police. All were involved, the Sheriff's Department, not to mention other police departments involved in this investigation. Other questions behind this shooting, as we reported earlier, are possible some racial motives involved, and we'll get into all that. We'll explore all of this coming up at 6 o'clock.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Studies show that children who experience violence can be impacted for life.
I had to think about that as you saw the kids being let out of the building in the daycare center. Tonight in Pittsburgh, a new project to get kids like those to help them. It is called Safe Start, and it is a network of experts and community helpers who are reaching out to help kids who are victims of violence and kids who see violence. The honorary chairwoman of Safe Start is Ellen Roddy, wife of the Allegheny County executive.
I certainly hope it can help. We've got to do something. We have got to stop our abuse of children, either through them witnessing violence or abuse in the homes.
And again, if you did witness today's events, whether in person or even on television, if you feel the need to talk to someone, therapists from the Allegheny Mental Health Associates are in our studios right now to take your call. The number is area code 412-243-6000. These professionals can offer help and support to anybody dealing with the grief or shock of what has been certainly a very terrifying day in our community.
And as you can imagine, the entire Wilkinsburg area was affected by this today. As police surrounded the Wilkins house, several streets in the area were shut down, leaving many people with no place to go. Tonya Caruso has that part of the story. She joins us live with more. Tonya.
Michelle, to give you an idea what people here were dealing with, when we first got to the scene, we were allowed to pull into the Crossroads parking lot. That is right next door to the McDonald's parking lot. It did not take long for police to begin moving everybody back, and within moments we were all behind the police line, including lots of people who live in this area that had no place to go. As police, ambulance, and the SWAT teams made their way to the scene, dozens of people gathered to see what was happening.
Come on up into the building here. We want to get you out of the area.
But dozens of others had no choice but to stay there. They were being kept away from their homes.
I can't go by.
You can't go by.
No, they want to drop off.
Among those waiting, Denise Harris, who was frantically trying to reach her husband and son.
I just want to get home. I live like Kelly and West. So I get out and turn car. It's like a 3-minute walk. I'm tired of being fed up with my family. I'd rather be in the house with my family than be out. I'm sorry.
Yes, I have a lot of friends in there, you know, close friends, and I'm worried about the residents also, you know, so yeah, I'm worried.
Connie Moore and Lucretia Scott work at the Wilkins house. They had left the building moments before the gunman entered. Not knowing what was going on, they tried to get back in, but couldn't.
They just said we couldn't come into the building, and the doors were locked to go home.
A few feet away, Micah Van Gogh stood worrying about his fiancée. Moments later, the first of the people in the building made it out safely. A frightening ordeal, but all just happy they're alive.
Thank God that we're safe. Every day you never know when you might be at risk.
So a very long afternoon for everyone in this community. When the word began to come that they did catch the gunman, people here very relieved, and again, people here just said they couldn't wait to get back into their homes. Live in Wilkinsburg, Tonya Caruso. Michelle, back to you.
Okay, Tonya, thanks.
Our coverage of the Wilkinsburg shooting and the suspect's arrest and the huge scare for the neighbors continues at 6 o'clock. Coming up, more on the kids and violence, plus Nina Pineda on Ronald Taylor's demeanor. What was his attitude? We'll hear from the witnesses about that, plus the very latest on what police are saying, all live coming up at 6. And Action News will now continue in 2 minutes.
We'll be right back.
Action News is making a change, and it starts with you. We call it taking action for you.
You wanted to know what was really going on in this neighborhood.
Consumers, don't let this happen.
And this is a health concern that we checked into the problem.
Now new ways to get you involved in the stories we cover and how we cover them, giving you a voice.
A lot of parents call.
And an Action News crew is headed to the...
Answering your questions.
Tonight, we have the answers.
Action News is taking action for you.
Healthcast now. You know, last year, Americans adopted thousands of children from orphanages in Russia, Romania, Bulgaria, Latvia, and China.
And you know, those people have the best of intentions, but all too often they are finding the children they bring home, hoping to love, are disturbed, detached, and unreachable. Here's our medical editor, Marilyn Brooks.
Michelle, people are spending upwards of $25,000 on agency and document fees, drivers, translators, and travel. They come home thinking they have a healthy infant or toddler, only to find the child is emotionally, physically, and mentally delayed. It's a nightmare few are warned about or prepared for. To an outsider, Antra Bergman is a beautiful 7-year-old with all the toys and advantages she could possibly want. But it has taken more than 5 years of very hard work to get her to love, to trust, to appreciate.
But it was just awful. I mean, she had spit on children, she's pulled their hair, she scratched them.
Sally Bergman adopted Antra in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1994. Antra, 19 months old, had been abandoned by her mother in hospital. She was institutionalized with no one to love, touch, or care for her. Anybody give you any warning? Any?
No, no preparation as far as issues I could be facing, no. It was take them home and love them and they'll catch up.
But Antra didn't catch up. Her physical, cognitive, and psychological development were severely delayed. It's called reactive attachment disorder.
He came in kicking and screaming.
The issues are control and trust, and they show up in many ways. The kids are superficially engaging, charming, but they lack eye contact. They're indiscriminately affectionate with strangers. They can't give or receive parental affection. Inappropriately demanding and clingy, they can't learn from mistakes. They're destructive to themselves and others, especially animals. They're also preoccupied with fire, blood, and gore. Attachment disorder is not a problem that is peculiar to international adoption. Au contraire, it can and does happen right here in America. But at least American parents have agencies and services to tap into. It's not that simple with international adoptions. The Bergmans had to find speech, occupational, and psychotherapists for Antra. It cost thousands of dollars, lots of tears, and frustration.
She's much more in control of her emotions. She can control her anger, and she can express it better now. She's had a lot of help and training with that.
It's too late for Sally Bergman. She and Antra rode the trail the hard way. But she says it's not too late for thousands of Americans who are heading for international adoptions. Her advice? Learn or live a nightmare. Now, the Bergmans went through a Pittsburgh adoption agency that failed to give them all the facts about what to expect and the horrors of institutionalized children. If you want to know more, if you're getting ready to adopt, check our website at thepittsburghchannel.com. I have some information there for you.
So there is some help.
There is some help and there's some hope, but you got to be careful.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Thanks. More health news tonight about testosterone in a gel. The FDA has approved the first topical gel to treat men with low testosterone levels. It is called Androgel 1%. Symptoms of low testosterone include diminished libido, lack of energy, depression, and reduced lean body mass, and may lead to osteoporosis and even bone fracture. Androgel will be in pharmacies by early this summer.
Well, I guess nearly, 4 days of sunshine? We're kind of spoiled.
I guess we are. Joe's going to be up next with a return to winter. It's in the forecast. Action cam showing the gray skies over the point today as our daylight hours do extend each day. Take a quick look at Wall Street. Our news continues in 2 minutes. 24-hour DiNardo Weather Watch time, and I guess you're saying you don't miss winter?
No.
I wonder if it'll return. Joe.
About 24 hours worth. Kind of a dreary day today, but we will have a little colder temperatures tomorrow night, especially tomorrow night and early Friday. Right now, take a look at our neighborhood viewer net, and today we're looking at Northgate Junior High School in the Northgate School District. And as you can see, their temperature currently 51 degrees, humidity up at 100%. The winds are out of the northwest now with a frontal passage about 2 o'clock this afternoon. They've been going from 10 up to 15 miles per hour. Officially, International Airport picked up 0.14 of an inch of rainfall, but as you can see at Northgate, they picked up 0.64 of an inch of rain for the day as the showers moved through. Current temperatures 54 at International, 59 Morgantown, Parkersburg in at 61 degrees. Here's the flow pattern aloft, 18,000 feet. Our winds are going to be shifting around to the northwest for about 24 to 36 hours. That's going to turn us colder. And then for the weekend, this storm center out west is going to gradually move eastward and shift our winds back to the southwest. And that'll start moderating temperatures here for the weekend, especially coming in here on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But by Friday, look for some morning sunshine, then increasing cloudiness during the day on Friday. The high up to 45 degrees. On Saturday, forecast, as you can see, we'll have intervals of clouds and sunshine. The high on Saturday, 47 degrees, and on Sunday, partly cloudy and warmer. Sunday's high way up, 55 degrees. Monday's up to 63, so it's going to start to get warm once again. Meteorologist Stephen Cropper will be up at 6 o'clock with the complete forecast, along with our school visit. That's it. Here's Scott and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Joe. So it's going to warm up pretty soon.
Good.
Now, you've seen them, all of those 10-10 long-distance ads. Real savings or a ripoff?
Up next, the feds demand some truth in advertising.
Down Pittsburgh streets and behind closed doors.
Why don't you answer questions about where the money is, sir?
Team 4 investigations on Action News. Taking action for you.
You use county employees for political work?
No, I do not.
Asking the tough questions. Exposing the truth.
What we found was disturbing.
Team 4 investigations on Action News. Taking action for you.
What exactly are you doing when it's not snowing?
See what they uncover next.
We've been watching you guys.
Think about this. Are you paying more for the long-distance phone service that was supposed to save you big money?
That wouldn't seem fair. The federal government today announced new guidelines to make sure that ads that lure customers to these calling plans don't leave them answering for unexpected charges. Michael Gargiulo takes a look at how they have to change their pitch.
The ads promise you'll pay 10, 9, or even just 7 cents a minute for calls, sometimes by connecting with a 1010 number that lets you dial around your regular long-distance provider. But those low rates often don't include other service charges that boost your bill.
Too many companies are taking advantage of this confusion by promoting services with deceptive advertising practices.
Federal officials complain that ads like these hide the true cost of the service in the fine print, which they say you often need a magnifying glass to read. Now, in this case, you would find that in order to get the 5-cent per minute calls, you first have to pay a $25 sign-up fee.
They either can't read it or they don't notice it, and they don't realize that there are important conditions on the claim that's trumpeted in the very large print.
Today, the federal government took action, settling charges with MCI over concerns with its ad campaign and announcing new guidelines for dial-around and other long-distance advertising. They must be truthful in comparing their cost, disclose any restrictions, and be clear and readable. Industry groups think it will clear up the problem.
Every industry's got its bad apples, and we think these guidelines will help bring those bad apples back into line.
And hopefully it will make it easier for consumers to know what charges they'll ring up before they make the call. In Washington, Michael Gargiulo, Channel 4 Action News.
Congress is also cracking down on misleading ads. A New York congresswoman unveiled legislation today that would require phone companies to disclose rates and charges in all their advertising and allow consumers a way of opting out of the dial-around services when they're initially making a call. All right, coming up on the 6 o'clock broadcast, continuing coverage of today's shootings in Wilkinsburg.
Hear from the police negotiator who was able to talk the suspect into giving up peacefully. His interview and much more new on Action News at 6.
Live Pinpoint Doppler 4, the power you need for our winter weather. This is WTAE-TV, Pittsburgh. Right now, Channel 4 Action News is everywhere.
And good evening. A dramatic series of events this afternoon in Wilkinsburg.
At this hour, 2 people are confirmed dead in the shooting rampage. We've got team coverage of this tragedy, from the children evacuated to safety, the victims still hospitalized, and the men and women who risked their lives to end the situation peacefully. Police say this is the man responsible, 39-year-old Ronald Taylor. Police say his rampage started at the Burger King. Then he proceeded across the street to McDonald's. The rest of the situation unfolded at an office building complex on Penn Avenue. Our Jim Parsons has been following this all afternoon. He joins us live from the scene. Jim.
Sally, it's the kind of story, as you know, that all communities dread. You watch it on television, you see it on ABC or CNN, and you say, you know, not here. Thank God it's not happening here in Pittsburgh or Wilkinsburg or wherever. Today it happened here. It's a bizarre tale that started with an argument over some maintenance work being done and ended and in between, 5 people shot, 2 people dead, 3 people in critical condition, and ended with a peaceful surrender to police negotiators. Dozens of people found themselves in the crossfire just before noon, fleeing the path of the gunman as he made his way through Wilkinsburg. Police say Ronald Taylor made 2 deadly stops, at a Burger King where he shot 1 person, then at a McDonald's on Penn where he shot 3. One local homeowner found herself face to face with the gunman.
And he told me to be quiet, be quiet. I started screaming. And he says, I don't want to hurt you. He told me, he said, I'll be leaving in about 5 minutes. I just want to get myself together. He says, I'll be dead in 10 minutes.
Taylor then barricaded himself on the first floor of an office building. Our cameras caught dozens of people in an outside parking lot ducking for cover.
It's very chaotic when you have that many agencies at a scene like that, when you have an individual that has hostages in a building and there is a viable threat.
As Taylor was cornered on the first floor, upstairs, a daycare center was evacuated. He surrendered around 2 o'clock. And as you heard that woman say, Ms. McCrae, that the gunman said that I'll be dead within 10 minutes. Obviously, he thought this was going to end with either police shooting him or he shooting himself. It did not end that way. And fortunately, tonight, some small consolation. Police have a man to interview and maybe get some answers as to why all of this happened. And 2 people are dead and 3 are in critical condition. Reporting live from Wilkinsburg, Jim Parsons, Channel 4 Action News.
So often in these cases that doesn't happen, so it is small consolation. Thanks, Jim. Mike?
Sally, our coverage continues now with Ted Coppy, who is live at Montefiore Hospital with the latest on the shooting victims and the shooting survivors. Ted.
That's right, Mike. Doctors held a news conference here late this afternoon. Still, all the family members of the victims involved have not been notified, so they're not releasing the names of the living victims. However, we do know the identity of the 2 victims who were killed this afternoon in this whole ordeal. This is what we have right now. 1 victim brought here to UPMC around 11:45 is dead. His name is John Kroll, 55 years old, from Cabot, Pennsylvania. He was shot in the lower neck. Now, 3 others are in critical condition at this hour at UPMC Presby. They each suffered one gunshot wound. One of those victims was shot in the head, took a bullet to the brain, and is comatose right now. Doctors say his prognosis is poor. The other 2 at UPMC doctors are waiting to see over the next few hours. They were both conscious when they came in. At Mercy Hospital, 1 victim died. Joseph Healy, a 71-year-old man from Wilkinsburg. He was shot in the head. Meantime, back here at UPMC, doctors say the first victim, John Kroll, came in with no vital signs, and they were unable to revive him.
The first victim that I described had sustained a gunshot wound which led to injuries of blood vessels and to his right chest, which led to his death.
As for those 3 remaining victims, they were brought here. Their range in age is from 20 to the 50s, but they're not identifying those people nor their ages. Still a lot of concern here tonight at UPMC Presby Hospital. Reporting live in Oakland, Ted Coppy, Channel 4 Action News.
All right, Ted, thank you very much. There are, of course, emotional traumas as well stemming from this nightmare.
Imagine the terror of parents whose children were in that daycare center, so close to where Taylor held his hostages. Sean Yancey joins us now. Sean, did the parents know at the time that their kids were actually safe?
Sally, the good news is many parents told me that they were able to call the daycare center throughout the whole ordeal on their cell phones. They were able to talk to workers who reassured them their kids were okay.
Imagine knowing your kids were trapped in a building with a gunman inside and there was nothing you could do about it. That's what these parents were feeling as they watched and waited. Then finally, some relief after seeing police lead their children to safety.
My daughter called me from work and she said there's been a shooting in Wilkinsburg, and she said, and it's around the learning tree.
and I just ran out the school to come over here to see if they were all right.
Rose Lester ran to make sure her grandkids were okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to hold them and take them home.
Katisha Lewis works in the building next door to the daycare center. She felt helpless knowing her daughter was inside.
Just worried about my daughter. I just wanted to run next door and get her, actually.
Linnell Brown was also next door. Her 3-month-old baby girl inside, too.
I kept calling the daycare. She said that they were okay, you know, but I was just still nervous. We were all in one room and everybody was lying down on the floor.
Barbara Williams is the supervisor of the Learning Tree School. In addition to calming parents, she had nearly 40 kids ages 6 weeks to 6 years to keep safe.
Yes, everybody's fine. Thank God.
And that is the good news. Some other good news tonight. All the children and all the workers inside the daycare center were checked out. They are all okay. Most of the children didn't even know what was happening. Sally?
Thank goodness. Well, so just who is this suspect, Ronald Taylor? Paul Van Osel is live at Wilkinsburg Police Headquarters with more on the suspected gunman. Paul, a lot of questions being asked about this guy's background.
A lot of questions were asked here, Sally, just hours ago at a news conference. We were asking police what they knew about the suspect, and they were divulging very little. They say they really don't have a motive. At least they're not saying that they have a motive right now. And they say they've had no contact with Ronald Taylor here in Wilkinsburg. But one thing police do know is that Taylor, they say, went on just a harrowing rampage earlier this afternoon at the McDonald's.
There was an individual sitting in a vehicle in front of McDonald's with a passenger. It was a female. He walked up to that individual and shot him in the head. The female jumped out and ran for Dunkin' Donuts to use the telephone to call. He then walked around to the other side of McDonald's, went inside, shot an individual behind the counter, then walked back outside. There was a person sitting at the drive-thru, shot him in the head.
After leaving the McDonald's, the suspect fled to the nearby Penn West office building, firing twice at police. 125 people were evacuated, including 37 children. Police isolated the suspect in a corner office and found themselves in a tense standoff.
Pointed the gun. He actually pointed at the officers. The officers were right down the hallway from him, just, as I said, covered and concealed. But he would level the gun up at them and point right at them. And they're, again, uncommon restraint.
So why didn't police shoot at the suspect? Well, Chief Brewer says they have a very rigorous policy here of avoiding a loss of human life at all costs, although he said there is some second guessing going on right now based on what they now know about this suspect and what he actually did this afternoon. The chief did say one other thing, that during the standoff between police and the suspect repeated several times that he was planning to commit suicide. He said at one point, "I'm already dead." We're live here in Wilkinsburg. I'm Paul Van Osdal.
All right, thanks very much. Ominous. Thanks. Our Nina Pineda talked to one of the people held hostage and some of the witnesses in the shooting incident. She was actually inside the police perimeter during all of the events. Nina joins us live from the shooting scene. Nina, what did the hostages say?
Sally, they gave such a chilling account about the gunman who calmly sauntered into their office, gave and started bragging about how many people he killed, and then started giving orders.
He said, "I have one bullet left. Which one of you should I use it on? I'm going to use this bullet."
After saying that, the gunman held his handgun to one of his 3 hostages' heads, saying he was going to terrorize her.
Her face, I think, showed the most fear, and he said, "You look like a smart white," and he took the gun from his side and moved it this way.
But then seemed to quickly change his mind.
Didn't seem like on drugs or anything, though. He just seemed calmly mad. Very mad, but not raging. He busted out of the door, past me, and he went right here after Dr. Freeman.
After the suspect ran down this hallway, he went out those doors, but he couldn't get any further because both sides were sealed off by police and the elevator wasn't working. Without knowing where he was in the building, police anticipated fire as they took former hostages and others from the building to safety. Once outside, they had no idea who was left behind.
I know one is hiding in a bathroom now, one of our co-workers, but he had let her go. He told her, "Not you, sister," and Barb is black, and he let her go, and she went in one of the bathrooms to hide.
And the co-worker that was hiding in the bathroom and several other people from other offices were crouching on the floor and waiting until police gave them the go-ahead to go ahead and leave the building. But as you can see from that hallway, that's where the surrender actually happened. Right behind the doctor's office is where police were able to quadrant him off and force the surrender. Back to you, Sally.
All right, thanks very much, Nina. Indiscriminate mass shootings, now too much a part of the fabric of our society.
There's a tragic irony as well that tonight the Safe Start project is scheduled to begin. It's a program for kids who witness violence. Our Shannon Perrine joins us now after talking to the project's chairperson, Mrs. James Roddy. Often social workers call this kind of violence a teachable moment for kids.
Yeah, if you can take anything out of it, maybe it's a lesson. Now, today's events just underscore how much we need something like Safe Start. Here's what it is: a network of experts and community volunteers set up around Allegheny County just to help kids who experience violence.
A terrifying situation for grown-ups, let alone kids. The impact of this trauma can last a lifetime.
Evidently, it can be very damaging to young children now and later in life if they don't get some kind of help. A lot of juvenile delinquency comes from events like today, can come from it, if there is not parental guidance and understanding and help in the community.
Kids exposed to this kind of violence can go through the same thing abused kids do.
Through research in our county, they think there are 16,000 children who have been involved in some kind or witnessed some kind of violence. And no, there's not a lot of help available.
Roddy says if we can get to them, we can help them.
It is so frightening to think of what is happening to our children. And the children in this county are so important to all of us and to the future. We have to think about the future, and our children are the future, so.
Now, experts say kids who witness violence of any kind are 60 times more likely to become delinquents and 1,000 times more likely to become adult abusers. Now, the details of where these safe centers are going to be and how you can get involved, that's all going to come out later. Tonight is just the kickoff, but a very important kickoff, as we can see.
Sure Those numbers are staggering.
It is.
Oh.
Thank you, Shannon. Now, in light of what happened today, the Christian Church in Wilkinsburg is holding an anti-violence vigil tonight at 7 o'clock at the church on Wallace Avenue. Keep it here on Action News for continuing coverage of this tragedy.
And if you witness today's events and feel you need someone to talk to, Mike, therapists from the Allegheny Mental Health Associates are in our studios right now to take your call. The number is area code 412-243-6000.
We should let you know these professionals can offer you help and support to anyone struggling to deal with the grief and shock of what has been a very terrifying day here in our community.
Coming up, a young girl attacked by a pit bull. What is going to happen to the dog's owner?
Also ahead tonight, a murder cover-up. Police search for the person who stabbed a woman, then set her on fire.
And there we have Sky 4 over the West End with a shot of the Golden Triangle. Spring temperatures taking a break. Meteorologist Stephen Cropper is working on the updated DiNardo forecast.
This WTAE-TV Mark in Time is presented by Dollar Bank. Chester Carlson invents the copying machine, the principles of nuclear fission are discovered, and a national minimum wage is established. The year will tell you when we return.
What's the strength of a dollar? Money is economic energy. When distributed, it has the power to fuel all manner of enterprise. Since 1855, Dollar Bank has invested billions of dollars in millions of lives and thousands of businesses in western Pennsylvania, creating a currency of growth and opportunity. That's the strength of a dollar.
Xerography is invented. German chemist Otto Hahn discovers nuclear fission, and 25 cents an hour is the minimum wage in 1938. A WTAE-TV Mark in Time. This is Adam Lynch with the Pittsburgh Century.
Channel 4 Action News at 6 is everywhere. Live with Sally Wiggins, Mike Clark, Chief Meteorologist Joe DiNardo, and Meteorologist Stephen Cropper. Action Sports with Andrew Stockey. Right now, Action News at 6 continues.
In the other news of the day, a murderer tried to cover up his crime by setting his victim on fire.
It happened in Penn Hills near Beechford Road and Blackador Avenue. Sky 4 was above the scene as police and homicide detectives searched for evidence. Penn Hills firefighters discovered the young woman's body after they put out a trash fire. Police don't know her identity, but they do know her height was about 5'2" to 5'4", and she had a thin build.
That's the first investigation we do, is to try to locate any missing persons or have anyone call us who may know who this person may be or has missing persons that may fit this general description.
Police confirm the woman was stabbed to death and the killer covered the body with hillside debris before setting it on fire.
A 6-year-old girl is home tonight recovering from a vicious pit bull attack in Washington County. Chiara Mareschi of Bell Vernon was playing in the Charleroi Municipal Park, that's along the Monongahela River, Saturday, when the 8-month-old female dog attacked. The girl was bitten several times and knocked to the ground. The dog was later put to sleep and tested negative for rabies. The dog's owner, Stephen Chestnut, was charged with reckless endangerment.
The dog was totally out of control. He was just like on a tear. He just wanted to grab somebody and just rip them to pieces. That was the attitude that he had.
The little girl suffered several puncture wounds and required stitches on her ear. Meteorologist Stephen Cropper joins us now with a look at our weather.
Yeah, Mike, gray day today, signaling changes coming our way that will include some colder temperatures. More seasonal. We'll detail the leftover rain showers in the cold air coming up. Well, the spring weather's gone for a couple of days at least. Outside showers moving in today and some colder air hot on our heels. Across the area, still rather overcast, but most of the steady showers have ended across the triangle. 41 to start this morning. Still a very mild 58 for a high temperature today. 25 and 42 the normals. We pulled out a 16-degree warmer than normal day with that warm temperature of start and also a finish. Overcast sky, 8 miles visibility. Pittsburgh International still carrying a 51 now. 76% relative humidity, but note the winds. They are now in from the west at 17. Gust at 28. The westerly wind there indicating the front is through. Colder air on the way as the barometer continues to rise. Showers are still with us in a couple of waves. First batch moved through early this morning. Then we had some downtime as far as the rain went. Second batch now beginning to work to the east, and it looks like the back edge is just beginning to cross northern Allegheny. Drop you in a little closer on live pinpoint radar, and we'll show you that line that's just across the northern parts of Allegheny County, also stretching up near Butler County, southern Butler, and into eastern Beaver. So the lingering showers will be gone within the next hour or so as they continue to work to the east. Back to the maps, though, we are left with some upstream cloud cover that will stay with us. As we go back to the Triton, we'll take you through the extended period. Cloud cover will stay with us as most of the air back to the west is still rather moist, and we will continue to draw in some cold air across the lakes that will set up the chance for a few flurries. Note the mark there, colder air already spilling into Detroit, also through Marquette. So we will see temperatures falling tonight, not recovering much tomorrow, although we will see eventually tomorrow night a little more clearing. High pressure working its way, trying to clear things out. Will eventually be here by Friday morning, so we'll see a little more sunshine as we get into the day Friday. Then, too, we will see a shift in the winds, drawing in another milder flow for the weekend. So not all bad. 24-hour Donardo weather watch in the near term. Could still be a stray shower for the next couple of hours, then a sprinkle or flurry possible. Numbers plummet to 35. Back tomorrow, mostly cloudy day with a snow flurry possible. Temperature all the way up near 40, and then by tomorrow night, 24 as we clear things out. Friday looks good, nice start, some sunshine, warm it up to 45, then thickening clouds late during the day. It looks like in the extended forecast, the next system stays to our south, so we end up with just an intervals of clouds and sunshine kind of day for Saturday on the dry side, 55 on Sunday, and warming all the way back to 63 on Monday.
Today was school day, and Stephen and I traveled north to Bellevue Elementary. We were greeted by Mrs. Ondeck, the principal, members of the school board, and the entire student body. Following lunch, we spoke to 475 students, kindergarten through the 6th grade. Bellevue Elementary is part of the Northgate School District, serving 1,750 students. Dr. Baldesser is superintendent of schools. Bellevue Elementary is very proud of their Asset Science program, which is hands-on and includes an in-depth 9-week study of various subjects, including weather, electricity, sound, and physics. They are also very proud of their Fine Arts program, which includes dance, visual arts, music, and drama, culminating with a program called Arts Odyssey 2000 in March. Our thanks to all of the students, parents, teachers, and staff for a great school visit and excellent questions from all grades. Thanks for their generous contribution to Project Bundle Up, and the cake was outstanding. Next week, it's Patterson Primary in Beaver County.
Rough weather flying back. we'll have also at 11 a song that they wrote for Joe. Two songs. We'll try to sing it for you.
Thank you,
very
Steve.
much. We're looking forward to that. Tonight at 11, continuing coverage of the Wilkinsburg shooting. John Greiner just spoke with the chief negotiator in this hostage situation, and he's live working on that part of the story. John, what'd you find out?
Well, Sally, it took 2 hours of negotiation to get the suspect to finally give up. What was it that the negotiator said to him that made him give up? We'll hear about that at 11. Right now, the negotiator describes to us how it all ended.
And down the hall towards me along with a knife. I then told him to stand up and come halfway down the hall and then to turn away from me. And I explained that there would be officers approaching him from behind. They weren't going to hurt him. They were just going to take him into custody. And that's what he did, and it ended at that.
Sergeant Fisher says all they promised Ronald Taylor were some cigarettes and some bottled water. More on what made him give up tonight at 11 o'clock. For now, live from Wilkinsburg, John Greiner, Channel 4 Action News. Back to you.
What a job to have. All right, thanks very much, John.
And we'll be right back with Action Sports.
And the issue of race making headlines in sports tonight.
That's right, Braves pitcher John Rocker really making headlines tonight.
That's right, already in the center of a controversy over race and some comments he made. And tonight, relief for John Rocker. An arbitrator has cut the pitcher's suspension in half, from 28 days down to 14. Also reducing his fine from $20 grand to just $500. Baseball suspended the reliever for comments he made to Sports Illustrated, critical of foreigners, minorities, and homosexuals. Rocker plans to address his teammates at camp tomorrow and then meet with the media. Well, surprise, surprise. The Steelers officially signed free agent quarterback Kent Graham today. Also made official, Graham's place in Pittsburgh's pecking order.
He looked at this as an opportunity to come in as a solid number 2, and then, you know, he will compete. There's no question about that, and he's a very competitive guy. He won't accept being number 2, but he'll go about it in the right way. So I'd look for a lot of good competition between he and Cordell, but obviously Cordell's coming back as the incumbent.
And I feel like I'm going to fit real well in with the Steeler organization, and so, you know, I'm excited about it because I think my mentality is kind of the same type of mentality the Pittsburgh Steelers have, and so I think I'll feel real comfortable.
Now, will the Steelers make a big play for Willie Clay? The Hill District native, who hosts an annual football camp here in town, was home this afternoon to visit with the team and interview as well. Formerly with New Orleans, Clay is now a free agent safety looking for work.
Man, it would be special. I mean, you know, that's a dream. It'll be a dream come true if we can get something done. You know, growing up and being a big Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and even though I play ball in the NFL, I'm still a Steeler fan. It would be great. You know, it'd be great, and you know, just definitely come home and help them kind of turn it around and, you know, kind of resurrect my career.
And in hockey tonight, the Penguins in Calgary, and also some pretty big high school basketball games. We'll have it for you at 11.
All right, we will see you then, Andrew. Thanks.
And that's Action News at 6. Thanks for joining us.
Join us at 11 for continuing coverage of the Wilkinsburg shooting. President Clinton is reacting to the situation as well as local leaders. We'll see you then.
Good night.
This has been a presentation of WTAE-TV and Channel 4 Action News. Everywhere. Later tonight on Action News, angry words lead to deadly violence. A man terrorizes this local neighborhood, firing bullets, taking hostages, and taking lives.
He got mad at the guy evidently and shot him point-blank range in the neck.
I was just shook up because I really thought he was going to shoot me.
You at 11 relive the anxious moments as a negotiator tells us how he talked the gunman into surrendering and what pushed the shooter over the edge. Learn how local police kept these kids safe. All tonight on Action News at 11.
On World News Tonight this Wednesday, the boy in first grade who shot the girl in first grade. Are his parents somehow to blame? Where was his support system? The 2 teenagers in Maryland who made a suicide pact when she killed herself, he panicked. And now, might he go to jail? Why has it taken so long for the world to help in Mozambique? And why did Congress insist on pouring money into the shipyard when it wasn't building ships? It was your money.
ABC News World Headquarters in New York. This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We're going to begin tonight with children in peril from Michigan to Mozambique. It's a difficult week. In a suburb of Pittsburgh today, children were evacuated from their daycare center when a gunman arrived at the end of a 3-hour shooting rampage. The man was finally arrested after apparently killing 2 adults and critically wounding 3 others. In Michigan today, the question is, how did a 6-year-old boy get
to pass more anti-gun legislation after another fatal shooting? 2 people are dead and 3 are hospitalized in critical condition after a gunman opened fire today at 2 restaurants outside of Pittsburgh. Jennifer Wolf has more.
Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania erupted in gunfire this morning.
We heard gunshots. We heard 3 gunshots outside of our office. We went to the window, obviously, to see what was going on.
Police say Ronald Taylor had an altercation at his apartment today, shot a person there, and set the building on fire. According to police, Taylor shot 4 other people at 2 fast food restaurants before fleeing.
I walked out of my bedroom and this man was standing in my living room. And he told me to be quiet, be quiet. I started screaming. And he says, I don't want to hurt you. Then he made me come into the kitchen and he shut my back door and he told me to sit down. And he asked me, was there anybody else in the apartment? I told him no, there wasn't anybody else in here. And he said, well, I'm not going to hurt any black people. I'm just out to kill all white people. That's exactly what he said.
The accused gunman later barricaded himself in a nearby building.
He called me out of the room. I thought maybe he was one of our patients. And he had the gun at the side, and he took the 3 of us in the back, and he said he had 1 bullet left, and which one of you 3 should I use it on?
That building housed both daycare and senior citizen centers.
We have people with dementia in wheelchairs.
After several hours of holding police at bay, the gunman surrendered. Today's shooting spree, coming on the heels of yesterday's elementary school shooting in Michigan, prompted President Clinton to call for stricter gun control measures.
As citizens, these incidents, particularly the one yesterday in Michigan, call on us to recognize the fact that we simply haven't done everything we can do to keep guns away from criminals and children.
Police are still working to piece together the day's events, but for many in Wilkinsburg, today's shooting spree may never make sense. Jennifer Wolf, Headline News.
Michigan prosecutors
The door to his apartment days ago because he'd lost his keys, and when maintenance workers went to fix that door this morning, the rampage apparently began. Taylor allegedly shot one of the maintenance men, then set fire to his 1-bedroom top-floor apartment, which was found gutted with the windows blown out earlier today. Then he apparently went walking off towards the McDonald's parking lot where one victim, Richard Klinger, was shot while sitting in his van with his stepdaughter, who thought that the suspect was approaching to ask for directions. Taylor then allegedly picked off 3 others in the lunchtime crowd, 2 at the McDonald's, 1 at the Burger King, before taking hostages inside that office building. Taylor now under arrest, awaiting his arraignment at the Allegheny County Coroner's Office, facing 2 counts of criminal homicide. Shep?
Rick, any word on where this guy got the gun?
No, not clear yet. Police aren't saying where the gun came from, but certainly it was enough for President Clinton to come out and say that we need tougher gun laws. We need them now. He wants Congress to act before they take a recess at the end of next week.
Rick Leventhal live in Pennsylvania. No school today at Buell Elementary in Michigan.
Tonight, random gun violence. 2 are dead in a restaurant shooting spree near Pittsburgh. And new clues to yesterday's elementary school shooting in Michigan.
Thanks for coming. The race for the White House. George W. Bush savors his 3-state victory, while a John McCain supporter urges a retraction of his attack on Pat Robertson, and a preview of tonight's debate between the Democrats.
Plus, uncovering the roots of a scandal. Los Angeles police offer answers to why one city precinct went bad.
From CNN, with anchors Wolf Blitzer in Washington, Joey Chen in Atlanta, and Jim Murray in Los Angeles. This is The World Today.
Good evening. Joey is off. There's been another outbreak of gun violence just a day after the shooting death in Michigan of a 6-year-old girl allegedly killed by a classmate. Today's rampage took place at 2 restaurants in the Pittsburgh suburb of Wilkinsburg. Before it was over, the shooting drama moved to a nearby building where dozens of people were trapped. CNN's Deborah Farrick is on the scene.
SWAT teams evacuated seniors and children from daycare centers 9 miles from Pittsburgh. While inside, a hostage negotiator talked the gunman into dropping his weapon.
The SWAT team sergeant from the city of Pittsburgh, I believe, basically effectuated very effective dialogue with the actor, and he eventually surrendered to him, and he was brought down here to our station.
It was the end of a tense standoff following a shooting rampage that left 2 dead and 3 critically wounded. According to police, it began in the apartment of 39-year-old Ronald Taylor. Police say Taylor allegedly shot a building maintenance worker before setting his own apartment on fire.
And he said, well, I'm not going to hurt any black people. I'm just out to kill all white people. That's exactly what he said. And he asked me if I had any weapons in the house. I said no. He asked me if I had kids. And then he told me, he said, I'll be leaving in about 5 minutes. I just want to get myself together. He says, I'll be dead in 10 minutes.
According to police, Taylor headed to a nearby Burger King where he shot one man before continuing on to McDonald's. There, police say the alleged gunman shot 3 others, one man sitting in a car, another inside the restaurant, and a third at the drive-in window.
He fired 2 shots at our officers and barricaded himself at the eastern, I believe it's the Eastern Area Services Building.
As police began to close in, the gunman ran into the daycare facility.
And around 11:30, we heard gunfire going off. We thought was gunfire, and we jumped up out of our chairs. We realized that's what it was because there were people running through the streets.
My oldest daughter just came out, just hugged me, and just said, "Mommy, I'm happy to see you. There's a man in the building with a gun."
The victims were taken to nearby hospitals.
Judging from the x-rays, it appears that most of them were small caliber.
Police tonight are searching for a motive. The gunman, meanwhile, expected to be arraigned on murder charges sometime tonight. Another community left wondering why did this happen here. Reporting live, Deborah Farrick, CNN, Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania.
In the wake of today's shootings,